All right, so briefly, I'm going to talk about the Venus signs, okay? So, Venus is a planet. A lot of people are like, Venus is the planet of love, but I want to talk and expand on that a little bit. Venus is also a planet associated with beauty, harmony, balance, relaxation, appearance, possessions, values. Because Venus rules Libra, we know Libra is a sign of partnership, but Venus also rules Taurus, and Taurus is the earth sign that's more related to this concept of possessions and values and things of that nature. And so Venus encompasses those things to which are close to us. So that's why I said, like, sometimes we talk about Venus as just being this love thing, but it also can be who you love, how you view love, how you love people in your family. It doesn't always just have to be relationships. So when we think of Venus like that, I think it helps people understand conceptually that your Venus sign is more important than just who you're in a relationship with. But for the purpose of this video, I'm probably going to focus the most on that. Okay, so Venus in Aries. So Aries is already it's a fiery, impulsive sign. When you put Venus in Aries, as a person who tends to not be shy about their relationship or who they want. So this is not someone who's really going to tiptoe behind the scenes or try to scheme to get someone. They're kind of let that person know, I want you. And sometimes they might be willing to do a lot of things to get to that person, right? And so, because remember, Aries has to have what they want. And in a way in which they, I'm not saying like in a threatening way, but Aries knows what they want, and that's the object of their affection. They're going to go for it. And because of that, sometimes people are attracted to that kind of boldness, that confidence that Venus and Aries can have about who they are and what they want. And at the same time, can be very passionate in a relationship, right? Because they are, signs that believe highly in themselves, and it's almost like I chose you, so you're special, you're important. Venus and Aries, that passion, though, you have to understand that it can fizzle out really quick when they jump to partners that they don't really know. And so what I mean by that is because of this impulsive nature, sometimes once they get into a relationship, they realize it's not what they want. It now fizzles out. They don't tend to be the sign that's going to keep you hanging around. It's almost like whatever's the object of their affection is the most important thing. And once it's done, it's kind of done. So again, house placements matter as well. So a Venus and Aries in the first house person is going to be very different, not very, but slightly different than the Venus and Aries in the eighth house person. So, you also have to look at where Venus is in the person's chart, because that's super important as well. And so, they can be highly, not compassionate, necessarily passionate in a relationship and show that person that they care about them a lot. Aries energy in general likes touch. You're not going to really get poetry and love letters from Venus and Aries. Now, you might if they're a Pisces with Mercury and Pisces, but Aries wants to show you they love you. They want to show, I did these things for you. I'm going to do this for you. Let's go do this. I want to take you. Like, they're not going to necessarily be penning you love letters and texting you every 5 seconds. So even though that might confuse people because they're like, wow, this Aries really pursued me really hard. This Venus and Aries person really pursued me. But they're not a Venus and Gemini. They're not a Venus and Virgo, right? There's not going to be that same level of attention to communication, because they're going to look at it as like the way they view love is like, I do things for you, or I am there for you, or I'm affectionate with you. That is the way I'm showing love. Because remember, Venus rules Libra. Libra is the opposite sign of Aries. So Venus is not 100% comfortable in Aries, because Aries is about self. And so Aries and Venus is going to go for what they want, but sometimes they can struggle with really identifying what their partner needs. So they're really not good at attuning to those needs, like a Libra, who is more about collaboration, or a Venus and Cancer person who understands your internal needs, right? And so that is something that can sometimes come about in these Venus and Aries relationships. It's like they view like their love is the only love. They don't understand how other people might want to go about doing certain things and how they maneuver the relationship. As far as money goes, because remember, Venus is also money. We forget that sometimes, right? People are like, it's the planet of love and that's it. They can spend a lot of money. It's whatever they want they have to experience it. And so that is something sometimes to watch out. A lot of times people only look at the sun sign, but you can have an Aries person who has their Venus in a sign where they don't spend a lot of money, right? And they're cautious. But you can have a person who is not in Aries, but their Venus is in Aries, and they have other placements which influence them to kind of spend without thinking and being very fast in what they're doing. Venus and Aries people, remember, likes to be independent and leader. So in a relationship, sometimes it might benefit, certain people, like they like to feel like they're like, I don't know, in charge. If you're not if you don't like that, then probably shouldn't be with a person who has that type of mindset, regardless of whether they're Venus and Aries or not. But sometimes this placement does like to kind of like make the decisions or feel like they're in charge in a relationship. It doesn't mean you have to go along with it, and it doesn't mean that they are in charge, but there's just kind of like this air of them that they needed feeling important, like they kind of lead the decisions and things of that nature. Venus and Taurus. So Venus actually likes being in Taurus because it rules the sign. Venus and Taurus people tend to be very loyal and dependable because Taurus likes their comfort zone. It doesn't really want to go too much out of what it knows and what it's comfortable doing. Spontaneous, actions or spontaneous decisions are not typically what Venus and Taurus is going to do. Now, keep in mind this idea of devotion, though. So sometimes Taurus can change or can do things that they don't want to do because of this loyalty to their partner. And so that's sometimes where you will definitely see that. Now, that's especially true if you have a Venus and Taurus person with a mutable sign or like Gemini or something like that, because they're going to be more willing to change for their partner because their Venus sign needs them to feel stable. And if that person is making them feel stable emotionally, they might do something that you wouldn't expect, but it's because they're loyal and dependable, not because they want to do it. Okay. Because of that, sometimes your Venus in Taurus people can go for what's familiar. So if you know someone and you're like, why are they still in this relationship? Why are they still in this relationship with this person? It's because they don't like to leave what's familiar. They're not going to jump from relationship to relationship, which is good because they tend to know their partners really well. But it can be bad if they stay with someone they shouldn't really be with, because they are afraid to venture out and go to the unknown. Also, remember Venus and Taurus. Taurus is linked to beauty. Now, not Taurus, Venus, its ruling planet. So Libra is more like that aesthetic beauty. Taurus sometimes can be more that more authentic, natural beauty, the physique, things like that, the senses, and so what appeals to you. And so sometimes they can go for attractive partners or kind of have that eye for an attractive partner, because of Venus's influence. I mean, it is what it is. And so Venus and Taurus people tend to have, a really also a good aesthetic for what they like, what things that they like, what they spend their money on. They're not gaudy. They're not flashy, but they tend to have nice things because of that Venus influence. So they do like nice things, and they sometimes might show those things off, but it's different than spending lavishly like a Leo or Sagittarius, because typically Venus and Taurus people can sometimes be very good with money, keeping it, maintaining it. Now, if you see them spoiling someone, that means they really, really care about them, because they don't tend to like to spend on who they don't care about, or they don't like to spend on things just for a whim. Very different than like a Venus and Aries type of person. Venus and Gemini person, if you're with a Venus and Gemini, or you are a Venus and Gemini, words are going to be very, very important. Okay, so where I said that don't expect a love poem from Aries, you might expect one from this sign. Maybe not a love poem, but their words are going to get to you, because Gemini is a wordsmith. They're really good with their verbiage, and so because they're ruled by Mercury. And Virgo is also ruled by Mercury, but we'll get to them soon. So Gemini, Venus. Sometimes they can have a reputation sometimes for being flirtatious, simply because they are so sociable and they like to talk, and they attract people who want to kind of understand them more, because they're very open, right? Sometimes they're very open. They're talkative people. They're not afraid to kind of see someone and say, oh, where'd you get that jacket from? And have a whole conversation about it. They're not offstandish. And so sometimes there can be a lack of boundaries, especially, let's say, if your Venus and Gemini is in the 12th house, lack of boundaries between, friendship and relationship. And that can get people with this placement in trouble in their relationships, because they tend to draw these people to them sometimes. You do have to keep this person stimulated. Gemini in general, but Venus within a partnership, if it gets too boring, if it gets too predictable, that's where you can sometimes see problems because they're going to be looking for something. And it, you know, and then there's this reputation. People talk about whether Gemini is faithful or not. I think any person, any sign can be faithful or unfaithful depending on your personal decisions, right? You know yourself, you know what type of situation to get yourself in and not get in. But what I'm saying is because of that, Venus and Gemini is so curious, they can sometimes happen upon these situations. And because if their relationship feels stale or boring to them, they're now looking for someone else to kind of give them that mental stimulation, that new, right? But again, it's different than Venus and Aries venturing off, because Venus and Aries, it's like, oh, that new thing, it's attracting me. I want that, or I want to know them. And it's like this burning fire. With Gemini, it's all mental, right? And so if you and your Gemini Venus partner ever stop talking, communicating, that is a danger red flag, because who are they talking to, right? Their Venus sign shows that they value communication. They value talking. They value learning even, right? So sometimes it's not even about taking them on a new adventure. Maybe it's like engaging in the things that Gemini likes to learn about, engaging in what this person likes to experience or discuss, or, you know, what actually piques their interest and keeps them mentally stimulated is going to be something that's important with your Venus and Gemini person. And they can spend a lot of money. Like Venus and Gemini could be the people sometimes you'll see like they're in school forever because they spend their money on what makes them curious. Like, you know, if they're going somewhere, it's usually because they're trying to get some more information or learn something about it. Or, oh, I'm just going just to see if, this place has this new cuisine I heard about. I'm just going because I heard that such and such and such, and I want to see if such and such is there. It's like interesting. Like they do things to kind of figure things out. So Venus in Cancer. Okay. So Venus in Cancer, you know, they tend to like their partners accessible. So remember, Cancer is the sign relating to home and security. And so they need people they feel safe around. They're not willing to really jump into a relationship with someone that they don't feel familiar with. There's a need for a devotion. Venus and Cancer people need to feel like this person is really devoted to me. And so sometimes they could put them through unnecessary tests just to see, does this person really care about me? And sometimes that's what they kind of do, like the Leo stuff, right? The Venus and Leo dramatic stuff. But Venus and Cancer is not dramatic, right? It's more so them trying to see and put you through this test and trying to see, like, is this person worth giving them my time? Not in a Taurus way, right? Where Taurus is looking for the foundation. Cancer is looking for the emotional connection. And even in people who aren't overly emotional, this is where you will see this come alive in this partnership, right? And how they are loyal to people they feel are loyal to them, because Cancer can give a lot. This nurturing aspect of making sure you have what you need. Cancer energy is really good at instinctually knowing, right? And being able to have that personal relationship with people and knowing. And so Venus in Cancer is good at sniffing out people's needs and giving them their needs. But they're not going to do it if you haven't earned it. And so that's why in sometimes relationships, it can always feel like you're trying to figure out this Venus and Cancer person, because it's like if they don't feel they trust you, there's always going to feel like there's a lack, or they're not giving as much as they could be giving. Also remember that moon changes, right? Moon rules Cancer. And so they can also flip very easily in relationships, because remember, the minute Cancer energy feels attacked or feels out of their safety zone, they're now on defense, because remember, this is a cardinal energy, and that energy is going to be directed towards you. And so understanding that, yes, they can come across as very nurturing or very safe or comforting or soft. But at the same time, if you upset or razzle that, you're going to see that different side of them, because the moon has two sides and the moon rules Cancer. And so don't take advantage of that placement, because what seems very soft is a cardinal force that is emotionally going to be directed at you. And that's all of a sudden where you start to see like some passive aggressiveness or moodiness, or them just not doing what they used to do for you. And then all of a sudden you're going to see that's, because they're upset or they feel unsafe in some way. As far as what they spend their money on, Venus in Cancer likes to, what they value a lot is like things that are close to them, home. They might spend a lot of money on about their house or their home environment or what is close to them. Yes, it can be people as well. They know what you need. So they might buy you things you need, right? Not necessarily what you want, but they care, this kind of caring. Oh, I was at the store and I picked this up for you because I know that you needed this or you needed that. That's where you see a lot of what they spend their money on, not really selfish reasons, really. And a lot of Venus and Cancer people do have some type of close relationship with their mother or a mother-like figure. Venus and Cancer also, sometimes they can seek partners who kind of need them in some way. Because you know what I mean? Like that nurturing aspect that there's something the partner can't do for themselves that the Venus and Cancer likes to do. All right, Venus and Leo. I mean, they are very generous. If they love you, if they care about you, you're going to get the best part of them. They like to sometimes show off their partners. They're not embarrassed of their partners. It's not the type of person that's going to hide their partner for years and years and like, who are you dating? This is where you might see like a sign that's more chill or laid back really show out in love or when they feel loved or when they're, so Venus and Leo, you sometimes will see like that this creative side of them as well. These people can tend to be very creative because Leo is a sign associated with that and Venus is also a sign dealing with beauty. So they can make really beautiful things. Venus and Cancer sometimes as well. But Venus and Leo people, they are very giving, but it's kind of like Cancer. If you look at a lot of astrology, no matter how dramatically different signs are, sometimes they borrow from their neighbors. So Leo is similar in the way to Cancer. Like if they feel unappreciated, you're going to see that. But with Leo, it's more of a prideful thing. It's not like their feelings are hurt. It's like a pride point of, I don't feel appreciated. So I'm going to throw a whole tantrum. I'm going to tell you what you're doing wrong. Whereas Venus and Cancer sometimes will show you through what they do. Venus and Leo people tend to be also very loyal to their partners because they don't really see a need as long as their needs are getting fulfilled. Now, understand, with that Leo ego, some people can leave or end a relationship if they don't feel their ego is getting filled. So do understand that your Venus and Leo person needs attention. I don't care if they seem relaxed. I don't care if they seem low key. You have to give them attention. Give them what they want in order to keep making them happy. But sometimes they have the same problem as Aries where they give what they think their partner wants, right? So Leo can be extravagant at times, that energy. So they might say like, okay, I bought you a new car for your anniversary. And they're like, I just wanted to go out for dinner. We haven't done that in years. Why'd you buy me a car? Right? So like Venus and Leo sometimes can have that like very extravagant mindset, but they really have to also tune in, borrow a little bit from Virgo, tune in or borrow a little bit from Cancer because Cancer Venus knows what their partner needs. Leo sometimes is just trying to show like, I love you. I showed you. Look what I got you. Or I showed you. I did all these things. But that person just might want you to spend time with them. And so sometimes Leo has to realize not to overcompensate for emotions with things, right? And really get to the heart of the matter sometimes, even though they might show all of this, appreciation or attention to their partner, really getting to the heart of the matter of what the partner truly wants and really needs out of the relationship. Okay. Because sometimes it can kind of shine all about them. Remember, the sun is the ego and it rules Leo. So sometimes Leo can get caught up in like things being all about them and not realizing that they're getting too far away from the actual true partnership of what they have. And Leo, Venus people can spend money. They can on what they love, what they like looking at. They might spend money on others, right? Oh, by the whole bar, it's on me, right? Venus and Leo can get really caught up in spending money on things that look nice or things that they think are going to make people think they look nice. Their appearance, being flashy, or the people they love, they spend that money on, tend to, right? Venus in Virgo. So Venus in Virgo, this sign is going to be really, really, really particular about who they date. There's a reason for who they date. So it's not like a Venus Aries where it's like, oh, person, I liked them, I just felt it. Or Venus in Cancer or anyone else. It's like Venus in Virgo. Now, this is where you'll see Virgo energy in someone who's maybe not a Virgo. You could have a person who's not very detail oriented, but when it comes to matters of love, they're very specific about what they want, who they want. Sometimes Venus and Virgo people want to improve their partners. So sometimes they can get involved in relationships, kind of like Venus and Cancer to a certain extent, where people who are in need of some type of improvement, right? So it becomes like their little project. But also understand this about Venus and Virgo, and Virgo in general. There's always a reason for who they're with, and you might not be able to see it, and you might say, why are they with that person? But trust and believe, because Virgo is an analytical sign. Venus does not function very well in Virgo, so this person has to be very mental about their relationship and logical and really analyze it. So they have analyzed it carefully why they're with the person they're with. There is a reason to that. There's a rationale to that. They are getting something from that relationship, even if it's something small, that you might not understand. And that person does need to fulfill some type of role in that Virgo Venus person's life. Don't get it twisted. It's not random who they're with. And so Venus Virgo people, sometimes, they're really good with communication, but sometimes they lack that emotional connection, right? And sometimes it can seem like they're coming off as like overly procedural about relationships or love. And so sometimes if you're with a Venus and Virgo person, understand like it's not that they're trying to do that. It's just that their love language is just different than yours, right? They might want to talk more and analyze the relationship, and you're looking for a more heartfelt declaration of love. But take their ability to process and really break down your relationship, and also understand that Virgo is a sign of service. And so these people do tend to go above and beyond in their relationships. And so they care about you by showing you that they care, by kind of inconveniencing themselves, because we know that Virgo energy is a lot about process and how to do things and breaking things down. And so if they're giving some of their time to you, understand that means that they care about you. They do have to learn though sometimes how to open up, and that words don't always get to the heart of the matter. You have to sometimes allow yourself to be vulnerable within your relationship to show that person that you both are in it and both on the same page about the depths of your emotional attachment. Venus and Libra, the ultimate partnership people. And you can see people who, regardless of whatever ups and downs they went in their relationship, they're still with their partner. These people, like Taurus, tend to stay in relationships for a long time. Now, sometimes Libra can stay past its expiration date because it doesn't really like to be alone. A single Libra has somebody around. Trust and believe that, okay? This is not like a Pisces. What's another sign that can kind of be alone? Virgo, maybe Taurus, Capricorn. You think maybe an Aquarius? Like there are certain signs that can be alone, waiting for the right person and saying, "Oh well, I'll just be all by myself." Libra is an extroverted sign, and it thrives off partnership, which is why there's such great people. People. Is that the word? I feel like I messed this up yesterday too. Anyway. They thrive off others. They thrive. They are sometimes at their best when they're collaborating with other people because their ability to relate to people is very strong. And so that's why Venus and Libra people tend to stay in marriages, relationships for a very long time. They know that person is literally their other half, typically. Venus and Libra people also understand the need for collaboration and balance in a relationship. So these are not people that tend to be overly selfish. They know a relationship is not just about them. In general, they do understand. They're also very, they might talk a lot about their relationship. They might refer a lot to their relationship. Sometimes there's a lot of understanding between them and their partner of the fact that they are, sometimes these people can serve as other people look at them as inspiration for what a couple should look like. What should it be like? For example, one celebrity that has this placement is Will Smith. And Will Smith has been with Jada for, I don't even know, 24 years or something like that. And, there's always been rumors around their relationship, but they're still together, and they have talked so much about how they make their relationship work and, how they communicate and just different just different, like being really real about marriage. And so that's an example of like Venus and Libra, and like how they both said like, we're never going to divorce. We're never, like, I think one of them was like, oh, you might be on the other side of the mansion, but we're still going to be together. Like, that's Venus and Libra. It's this idea of partnership and understanding it to a different level and degree than other signs do. So Venus and Libra people thrive within partnerships. They can make a lot of money off their partnerships. When they spend money, they tend to do better when they are in a collective type of relationship with someone else, and sometimes sharing of resources. And they're very social. Like this sign, whether you're a Libra or not, if your Venus is in Libra, there tends to be some type of social theme to your life. Venus in Scorpio. People think because of Scorpio is a water sign and Venus is love that it's perfect. No, remember I told you, Venus is about relaxation, balance, beauty, possessions, values, right? Scorpio is the opposite sign of Taurus. So what we have here is it actually doesn't function very well in Venus, okay? It's called in detriment. It's in detriment. Doesn't function very well because Venus is lighthearted and Venus is just pure and Venus is about harmony. But Scorpio is about depth and it's about complexity. And Scorpio energy is about obsession. Like, how do I get this person to soul, right? So a lot of Venus and Scorpio people are really into this whole relationships being something that is deep. And I need a soulmate and I need a twin flame. Even Venus and 8th house people. And so Venus and Scorpio people tend to be very into their relationship needing to be something that's deep in depth. And guess what? It can be so stressful that some of these people forego relationships altogether, ironically, because it's so intense. So they feel it very, very intense. And so whether they're in a relationship or not, Venus and Scorpio tends to always be fixated on someone. So if a Venus and Scorpio person is not in a relationship, trust and believe there's someone, whether it's someone from the past or someone they haven't yet acquired, who they are fixated on. Okay, because Scorpio is ruled by Mars and Pluto. So Mars is very about getting what you want. It rules Aries. And Pluto is about obsession. And Pluto can be transformative, but Pluto can also be obsessive and, abusive in some degrees. So I'm not saying Venus and Scorpio people are abusive necessarily, but I'm saying like with that energy, it's an intense connection to someone else. There's a lot with sexuality with this sign, Venus and Scorpio people, right? They need to actually, right? Taurus is about this pure, authentic expression of intimacy. Scorpio is about this depth and it's about it being transformative and something, right? So that's the polarities of those different signs. As far as money goes, Venus and Scorpio tends to spend money on things that will actually accumulate wealth and more. What can I get more? How can I gain, right? How can I get. And they can sometimes be really good with making money off other people as well, like in terms of like selling things or the way in that they partnership with other people. So Venus and Scorpio people are about their money. They don't spend it frivolously. They really don't. They tend to have a really good understanding of the purpose of money and not just making someone else rich, but consuming it for yourself. Because remember, Scorpio is about inner will, inner control. They don't like to be seen out of control. So a Venus and Scorpio person could fall deep in love, but they're not really going to show the world that. They don't really like to show they're vulnerable. That's why I said Venus and Scorpio is not a perfect match. All right. Venus and Scorpio is not, because the Venus and Taurus is going to be more that authentic, sure, my partnership, my foundation. And it's just Venus and Scorpio can go deep, but sometimes it's not an easy expression of the partnership and the actual essence of Venus, because they kind of can make things really intense. All right. But there's loyalty there. It tends to be loyalty. Now, again, you can get caught up because if Venus is in the 12th house, any Venus in the 12th house, talk to me, because that Venus in the 12th house gets real complicated. All right. Who's next? Venus and Sagittarius. Okay. Sagittarius is the opposite sign of Gemini. So automatically you have a restless nature. Venus and Sagittarius people can have more, they're open-minded with who they date, because remember, Sagittarius is related to this foreign idea of foreign and diversity, and not just wisdom and higher learning and truth and all that. That's a part of it too. But Sagittarius can also be open-minded with diversity. So they're not really going to have, I don't want to say they don't have a type. It's kind of like Aquarius. It's not that they don't have a type. It's more so like they're open-minded. They might have a type or someone they idealize, but at the end of the day, they might end up with someone that's completely different than what they said their type was. Okay, so Venus and Sagittarius, like sometimes they can meet their partner through travel or through going to a different country or something of that nature. And Venus and Sagittarius people sometimes have this attraction to people who are different from them, this openness to people who are different from them, different than like a Venus and Cancer person who sometimes wants to date someone that has some type of similarity or same background or something of that nature. Venus and Sagittarius people, kind of similar to Gemini, they need to be stimulated. Now here's the difference. You can't hold Sagittarius back from their mission. Whatever it is they feel their mission is in life and their purpose, when you start to stifle them, that is where you'll see some relationship issues start to happen. Sometimes you'll see this with partners who've been together for a while and they're doing fine. But all of a sudden the person wants to do something new, change their career, go vacation somewhere different with their friends. They want to drastically change their hair, cut all their hair off, do something different. And the partner's like, you can't do that. So that is where you sometimes see problems in relationships, is where somebody enters a new phase in their life and they were going fine, but then you say to the person, you can't do that. Or that's, why would you do that? You start judging them. And now you have an issue because the Venus and Sagittarius person needs freedom. And in fact, a lot of these signs do. Gemini, Libra, to a certain extent. Libra, not as much. They don't, Libra, not as much. But Aquarius, Gemini, and Sagittarius, for sure, in their relationship need freedom. And by freedom, I don't mean do whatever you want. But they might also, they don't like to be stifled with this idea or concept of tradition, because Sagittarius energy is easily inspired. And so if they want to do something and it's connected to what they love or something they feel that they're passionate about, you have to let them do it. Or they're going to venture out and probably, because remember, mutable fire, they can get attracted to other people. They can, especially, so the difference with Gemini stumbles upon this because they talk, right? Venus and Gemini people can be as flirtatious. Venus and Sagittarius people can be attracted to the cause, somebody who's purposeful, someone who is someone they feel is truthful and real. Like that's what they're going to kind of be attracted to. And so in your relationship, it's just important to keep that in mind, that you kind of have to go along with their mission and really know their purpose in life, because whatever purpose they have in life, they feel they need to fulfill it. And if you stifle them in a relationship, they want somebody who can let them do their adventures. They want someone who will go do these adventures sometimes with them, but also kind of leave them alone. Sagittarius is kind of weird like that. Like they want people to believe deeply in their purpose and their cause, but sometimes they want to go about things like on their own, or sometimes they just need freedom. They don't want to be stifled. When you start telling somebody they have to do it a certain way, Sagittarius and Gemini, Venus, the relationship is going to kind of fall apart in some way, because now they feel that they are not allowed to be who they are. They're not allowed to live their truth, because Sagittarius is known as being the truth seeker. They can spend money frivolously, yes, because Venus is relaxed. Venus is not about rules. And Sagittarius is about inspiration. Now, again, is there a certain seriousness to Sagittarius when we talk about religion can be attached to that, and truth and belief systems? Yes. But Sagittarius and Venus people tend to sometimes want to spend money, but they're going to spend money on their experience, on traveling, on experiences that make them feel like they're experiencing something brand new. I wouldn't say it's as random as Aries. A Sagittarius person will always have a purpose for why they did something. It's never going to be, I felt like it. It's going to be, because, and give you a long explanation, even if it doesn't make sense. Venus in Capricorn. Traditionalists. These are traditionalists in love. Capricorn is the sign known to be traditional. It's traditional in some way. And even the most out there Capricorn has an element of tradition to them. Okay. And where Capricorn is in your chart, look, that's where you're going to have the most traditional views. Okay. Look at it. Look at it. So Capricorn energy here is going to really show a person who sometimes can date people who are older than them, or they might be the older one, because Capricorn deals with age. And so sometimes you're drawn to someone that's the age difference, right? But also at the same time, you look at a relationship like a goal almost, right? You sometimes may look at a relationship as something that is, it's not that you don't love, but you want to be with someone who's going to be along for the ride. So you want to know what their aspirations are. You want to know what they intend to do, or you want that person to support your goals. So again, Venus in Capricorn, definitely not a sign that's randomly going to be in a relationship. Now, you might randomly see a relationship with Sag, Aries, Gemini, right? Libra, Venus Libra, especially if they're just looking for a partner. I'm just saying. Because it depends on how evolved you are as well, right? All Libras are not going to do that. But I'm saying there are certain tendencies. And so Venus in Capricorn doesn't have that tendency to just date just to date. Some signs do that for the experience, and I'm not saying that's wrong. But Venus in Capricorn, it's a more seriousness to their relationships, a more serious nature to who they're with, a more serious nature of that person has to fit into their plan somehow. And it doesn't mean they don't love the person. It just means they're really, cautious about the person. Sometimes some of them can put their career before their relationship in some ways, so they do have to watch out for that. Also, sentiment is kind of hard. It's hard for them to sometimes express emotion. All the earth signs have that issue except for Taurus, because it's not that Taurus is emotional, but it's like, I think they're a little bit more in touch with their base instincts than Virgo and Capricorn when it comes to emotional, release. And so, Capricorn also, the way they spend money on things that matter. They tend to be responsible. And so over time, they're eventually going to get to a high point. They spend money. This might be the person that you see that has a lot of savings. This might be the person who has money stashed. This might be the person who spends money very in a frugal way, not frivolously, like Sag might, because they really view it as something that should lead to something else. I'm not saying anyone's right or wrong, because Sagittarius Venus can definitely say, like, I'm spending money on life and experiencing and learning, and I love that. You're just keeping all your money and hoarding it for when you're 50 in a couple of years. Like, I'm having fun. So I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong. It's just a difference of how people express these opinions of how they should live their life. Venus and Aquarius is very different. Like, they are similar to Sag, where I don't want to say they'll date anybody, but they're open-minded. But you have to be friends first. So where some signs are more about like, hey, I love you because you look good, or you're a good companion, or we've been together for so long, or you're so dependable. Aquarius wants a true friendship first. They like their partner to feel like a friend, not just somebody to sleep in the same bed with them. They like that genuine, camaraderie that they can have with a partner. And so sometimes they get into, like, Gemini can get to these relationships just by like kind of being a little too friendly, or it just stumbles into a relationship from a friendship. This one is more authentic, where sometimes Venus and Aquarius people, they get into relationships with people they already know. So this might be the person who's known someone for 15 years and all of a sudden they're in a relationship together, right? This can be the person who, has been talking to someone online for like 20 years, and all of a sudden, they're in a relationship, right? So Venus and Aquarius tends to do that. Now, here's the thing. Venus and Aquarius people tend to always have some type of big cause. Sag too, to a certain degree. That can sometimes overshadow their relationship, but I think it's more common in Aquarius. Whether it's their job, their social causes, something they really believe in, something they're a part of, sometimes you can struggle because it'll always feel like there's something bigger than the relationship. And some people who date Venus and Aquarius people might feel a little bit like left right to the side, like this person's detached. Like, my relationship should be the first thing on their mind. Like, why are they doing this? But you do have to understand, when you're dating this person, that they're attached to groups and social causes. And so even if this person isn't out there being a social activist or whatever, This person tends to have things that they think are important, and they tend to involve groups, kind of like Leo, but Leo is more about the social and the charm. But the Aquarius is the sign of the humanitarian. It is about causing change and radical change. And even in the people who are not as radical, if this person has a Venus in Aquarius, they feel a need. Their love is towards things that cause change and help others. So even if they don't even seem like the most helpful person in the world, but you're like, well, why are you always going to this person's church and donating money? It's because they have this need in them to uplift society in some way. Okay. And even if they don't understand that need, because they don't understand astrology and what that means, they're going to have that. And so that is something to keep in mind. Now, that doesn't mean that that person should not put effort into your relationship. It doesn't mean that you can't call them out on it, but it does mean this can be a tendency of this person. But you have to watch out, because more than anybody, they need freedom. This is air, fixed air. So it knows what it wants. You can't really, Gemini is mutable air, so you can kind of move Gemini a little bit more. Aquarius is fixed air. When their mind is set on something, unless you somehow make it a part of their mission or their plan, you stifling this person. If you tell this Venus and Aquarius person, oh, you can't have any friends outside of me, watch them walk away. This is not a sign that you can easily change their life. And so in a way, you have to make sure that you both understand each other's lives and where you fit in, because you're not going to be able to instantly change this person's lifestyle or change what they view as important the way you might be able to influence. It's not about changing people. I don't want to say that, but you can influence other signs in a different way by pulling on their heartstrings. You can influence maybe a Venus in Cancer. You can influence a Venus in Gemini, right? You can influence certain signs, even maybe Sagittarius, because Sagittarius is mutable, but it's very hard to do that with Venus and Aquarius. But Venus and Aquarius people, I also like that they date who they want to date. They don't care what anyone else has to say. Because remember, Aquarius is quirky and unique. And Aquarius is not worried about what you think. Okay, you don't think he's cute. I don't care. Or, oh, so you don't think, he's this or that, or he doesn't fit in with our group. I don't care. Venus and Aquarius people don't care what other people have to say about their relationships. Like, they're not, I would say like a Venus and Leo, their opposite sign cares a little bit more what others think about the relationship. And even to a certain degree, Venus and Capricorn, okay, because Venus and Capricorn does care about status and might care a little bit about being that power couple. All right. And lastly, Venus and Pisces. Okay. So Venus and Pisces, kind of like the most compassionate, I think, of the Venus signs, the most selfless. So a lot of times they can give more than they get out of a relationship. And some of them don't really care, because remember, Pisces energy isn't here for ego. Pisces energy isn't here to gain. It's here in order to really connect with people. And it's here to really be kind of that presence of just like acceptance. Like, that's the sign of acceptance. Pisces accepts everybody. Don't get me wrong. Aquarius, yeah, I said they're open-minded to who they date, but again, they're fixed mindset. So at the same time, they want you to kind of fit in a little bit with what they want, with their causes, and sometimes kind of put themselves first, right? Pisces is really the sign of acceptance. Like, I truly accept you. I don't care what you are. I accept you with no conditions. That's the difference. All these other signs, sorry, there's a little bit of conditions to these relationships that I don't think Venus and Pisces has. So I think there's a true compassionate nature to their relationships with people. Sometimes, though, they can have the rose-colored glasses. So Venus and Pisces sometimes can think that a relationship is great, but other people are like, yo, like, this person is like not, this or that. But Venus and Pisces literally will sometimes not see things for what it is. And sometimes they don't see the reality of their relationships, even when the person in their relationship is trying to tell them, hey, there's something wrong with their relationship. It sometimes can be hard for Venus and Pisces, especially if they fall in really deep, to really understand that. Okay. And so that's the one thing I would say is the pitfall. But Venus and Pisces actually Pisces functions very well. I believe it's exalted in Pisces and Venus. It's actually a positive indicator of that natural energy source, because we are talking about relaxation, and Pisces is a very relaxed sign, right? Because it is not about rushing. It's not about ego. It is about truly being at peace. And Venus and Pisces people don't like drama or conflict. And sometimes they can not say what needs to be said in their relationships because they're afraid of that. Not afraid. I won't say afraid. It's not the right word. They don't want to experience that conflict. And so that's where but sometimes they're complacent in their relationships, and a lot of people judge them. Oh, this person isn't doing this for you. Why are you doing that for them? But they don't care. They're giving of themselves. But don't get it wrong. Venus and Pisces can sometimes be fickle. Some of them, they can be fickle in their relationships. Pisces is mutable water. When they feel hurt, some of these Venus and Pisces can be just as flirtatious or underhanded as that what you guys claim is those Venus and Geminis or those Venus and Sagittariuses, because they definitely can sometimes find their way to someone else, usually with a sob story. Okay. And so I'm not saying all Venus and Pisces are like that. I actually like this placement. I do. I'm a water Venus, I'm a Venus Cancer, but I'm just simply saying that it is very possible sometimes for some Venus and Pisces people to not be loyal because that Pisces can be that chameleon. They can shapeshift to whatever they want to. Okay. And they can, really easily find their way to someone new when they feel hurt or they feel taken advantage of, or when they feel they're no longer getting at least the acknowledgement or at least the understanding or at least the, what they feel is, deserved to them, right? Because it's not about Venus and Pisces just wants to be acknowledged. They want to just acknowledge them as they're just being, right? It's not about ego. So sometimes I feel like sometimes they can feel a certain way when they feel like people don't give them the respect or recognize what they've done, or when people make them feel weird about who they are, because Pisces, like Aquarius, can be kind of unique and different. And so the worst thing you do in a relationship with a Venus and Pisces person is make them feel bad for who they are, because who they are is this like really, it's a sensitive sign. And because it's sensitive, you do have to watch how much Venus and Pisces can take before there's some type of, and when they do it, they tend to escape. Like Venus and Pisces tend to escape from the relationship completely. Or sometimes they leave, right? Like that could be the definition of ghosting, because again, like it's a sensitive placement, but also it's Neptune. Neptune's about illusions of dreams. And so Neptune rules Pisces. Sometimes in these relationships, you can see that kind of dissipate. Right? They just go away. They just leave. They don't say anything. They don't want to say anything. They leave what is uncomfortable to them. They leave what they feel is not giving, right? Anything back. They don't even want much back. So when they leave, that means you have really done something to really irritate this Venus and Pisces person. And as far as money goes, sometimes they don't have some of them don't have a realistic understanding of money. So it's not like a Venus and Capricorn person where there's like a need to put money away for safety and a rainy day. Sometimes Venus and Pisces is more so dreamy and idealistic about what they spend their money on, and just more like, I like this, or this, I spent money on this because this makes me feel good, or this is, they might spend money on things that they fits in with their inner world, what they want, but it might not be translating to reality, right? It might not be helping them pay their bills off or pay their debts off or things like that. But again, all of this is relevant to the whole entire chart. So if you need a chart reading, you can send me an email at amethystvirgo@gmail.com. I do a 7 to 9 page PDF, and I send you a video with your chart explaining everything for $35. Or you send me an email, or you can visit my website, amethystvirgo.weebly.com. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram, amethystvirgo. Thank you for watching.